Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be looking ahead to the EPL action midweek. The EPL is back after a long international break, and we have some very interesting games coming up. We have a couple derby games, Arsenal, Fulham, Christoph, big derby, and we also have the big Merseyside derby over there at Liverpool. Now, joining me this evening to talk some EPL football and to preview these matches, we have resident analyst Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. We were entertained by some international action. Argentina taking apart Brazil, Christoph, and subsequently the Brazil coach was sacked. Talk to us about that game. What did you see from this Argentinian team? Can they repeat as World Cup winners? 2026 is just around the corner. What says you?
I mean, they can always repeat it. I mean, there was a lot of favoritism towards them in the last World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised to see it continue. Especially with Messi. If you watch the MLS, you see that there is a lot of favoritism shown to Miami and particularly to Messi in the MLS, which is shocking to me. Nobody talks about it really.
Yeah, but
Um,
doesn't that come with being a high profile player though?
No, fairness.
Hmm.
There are rules. Messi and Miami can't operate and accept different rules from the rest of the league and the rest of the world.
Well, true,
Fairness.
true, 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 true. But for sure, uh, interesting games. Brazil sacking their manager, not playing the best of football, being battered by Argentina during the break, and the
I'm not
coach is
so
no
sure.
more.
I,
Rumors
I,
are that Ancelotti Christoph will be taking over. Is that
I'm not so sure the coach is totally at fault. This is it's a Brazil team that I would say a lot of the players are very full of themselves. They think they are them. They think they are Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ronaldo Nazario, Ronaldinho. They are not.
call names, man? Call,
They
call
are not the
names.
level.
Who are we talking
Well,
about here? Call names.
two prime examples would be Vinicius Junior and that other one that plays for Tottenham, Richarlison. They
Oh,
aren't.
well, I mean,
They're not very good. They're not as good as Richarlison is not good. He thinks he is Cristiano Ronaldo or something. He is not. He's not very good. Vinicius
well, what
Junior.
was Richarlison in the squad? I don't think Richarlison was in the squad. I think the talisman right now is probably Rafinha. Rafinha, Vinny
Oh
Jr.
no,
Yeah.
Rafinha, excellent player. Plays well. Keeps it professional. Vinicius Junior seems something has gone to his head at the moment. Uh, and as the person who the team probably looks towards, it's really carrying down the team in
Well,
my
what about a
opinion.
return of Neymar? Could Neymar be the catalyst that this team needs in order to get things going?
I think if Neymar comes back and plays well, then yes. The problem for I think Neymar always plays well for Brazil in my opinion. The problem is teams know that Neymar is that talisman. He does well and teams target him as a result. So um it might warrant somebody like Neymar getting a little more protection, but they know that if they rough him, so to speak, he's going to go down, potentially injured, so on. So uh, it something must be done in order to effectively use Neymar because teams are going to target him.
Mm.
Every team, even poor teams, lesser teams, always target Neymar. So Neymar can make a change in this squad, but I don't think it's going to happen just because of how he's targeted.
Well, definitely interesting times ahead. That is relates to this Brazilian team and on the international front in general. I mean, Argentina has already qualified for the 2026 World Cup. They were probably one of the first teams to lock their spot over there in the USA come 2026. Brazil should make it, but of course, they're not playing the best of football. So definitely some interesting times ahead as it relates to that World Cup qualifications for a number of teams globally. But going back to the EPL, Christoph, we have Fulham taking on Arsenal. How are you seeing this game, the first game back from the international break? I'm hearing Saka might be fit for this one, Christoph. Could that give Arsenal a boost? entering into the final stretch of the EPL season. We are looking at 9, 10 games to go for most teams thereabouts. Saka back, could that boost the chances of Arsenal? Could Liverpool potentially slip up? Big Merseyside derby coming up. It could that be the case?
Could Liverpool slip up? Yeah, but it's still a big gap to kind of get across in a way. I mean, Liverpool has to potentially drop points in probably 4 games or lose 3 games or draw 4 games for Arsenal to kind of catch up at the moment. And Arsenal every time so far opportunity has presented themselves, they have really failed to capitalize on that.
Well, I think
They
that's
should they
probably the key factor right there, Arsenal capitalizing. Because if Liverpool do drop points, it means Arsenal almost have to be perfect from here on in to even stand a chance. So that is probably the biggest question mark. Can Arsenal capitalize if indeed this Liverpool team may make a slip or two? I mean, going down the stretch, Liverpool were pretty much competing on 4 fronts. And at this point in time, the only trophy they can legitimately win is the EPL title. So they have everything to play for, especially with potentially some players making that transition to possibly greener pastures. But what says you about this Fulham Arsenal game, this one taking place over there at the Emirates? Can Arsenal get back on track by getting a win against, I would say, a very competitive Fulham team?
can Arsenal get the win? Yeah, I believe Arsenal can get the win. It's a question of has the international break made the team somewhat rusty since they looked to me like they were starting to pick up their form again. Last game out, we saw them outplay Chelsea. Um, even though the poor referee in that game was as usual questionable. Um,
Well, I
before
mean,
that,
at some point in time, you have to play without the ref, Christoph. I mean, you can't be blaming the ref every game. At some point,
hey,
you just have
hey,
to play without the ref and get
if
those
it's
results regardless of the poor
oh,
refereeing
but
decisions.
I've said that you have to, regardless of how the referee is performing, you will still need to get the result. But when it's clear and obvious, you can't help but say it.
Well, for sure, saying it is one thing, but as I said, Arsenal have to put themselves in the position to get these wins, regardless of the refereeing decision. I mean, if you know that the ref is refing against you, quote and unquote, then you still have to go out there and perform. And to me, at times during the course of the season, that performance have been lacking for whatever reason, whether it be injury, whether it be tactics, whether it be player performance. And again, that is the question marks surrounding this Arsenal team, even this deep into the EPL season. At this point in time, a legitimate forward is missing. You can't go back and say, hey, we should have gotten one in the January window. We are where we are. What do you do from here on in? Is Moreno the man to take that mantle on, Christoph? That has been an experiment which have been tried with Arteta. Would you say it has been a success or a failure thus far?
Um, I think the results are inconclusive.
Mm. So you're still waiting to see if indeed he can fill that void of playing that number 9 position.
Um, uh, I don't think he can fill the void of playing that number 9 position, but he can do a job in that
Right, that's
position.
what I'm saying. Do a job as long as he's called upon, because with the injuries that Arsenal have, he will be called upon for the remainder of the season. That's a fact. And I mean, Arsenal are still competing on the Champions League front as well as pushing hard in the EPL, not only possibly to challenge Liverpool, but just to maintain their status in the top four, because that battle is red hot, and a slip or two here or there from Arsenal could possibly see them on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that's possible. Anything can happen at this point in time. It depends, will Arsenal still, try to compete for, potentially hoping that Liverpool will slip and they can capitalize, or will they be putting all their focus into potentially overcoming Real Madrid and making it to the Champions League finals? Hard to tell, the two difficult battles um ahead for them, only time will tell. I don't know what they're going to do. Saka being back is certainly a boost, but Saka alone is not everything. Granted, if you look at the numbers, majority of Arsenal's creativity and attacking have come from both Saka and Odegaard, and from Saka, and as well as those set pieces that Arsenal were scoring a lot in the first half of the season, were majority of them were from Saka. So. A
Well,
boost, goal scoring boost in Saka does score goals. He sets up goals, and he's very good with his corners.
definitely, definitely. And I mean, looking at this Fulham team as well, Christoph, they were in action in the FA Cup and picked up a 3-0 defeat at home to Crystal Palace. So they would have gotten a competitive game under their belt. So in terms of shaking off the rust, that should not be an issue for this Fulham team. But can they bounce back and hurt this Arsenal outfit is the question. I mean, they've been playing some good football all season, and they are where they are because of, I would say, good management by Silva. This is a big London derby. Can they create the upset in this game? Do they have the firepower to really hurt this Arsenal team, Christoph, is the question. Do they have the quality in player? I mean, the likes of Robinson is there, but who will get the goals for this Fulham team? Can the former Arsenal players hurt this current Arsenal team? Iwobi, for example, has had a tremendous season. Smith Rowe might be back. What says you? What's your
Um,
predicted scoreline?
uh, I predict Arsenal to win 2-0 for this one. Home at the Emirates, they won't want to lose any ground to Liverpool, and if needed, probably see Saka in the second half. I'm not
So
sure
you're
he
saying
will start.
you would not start him from the jump?
No,
But if he's fit, why not? You have
I
nothing to lose at this point in time.
I I don't know how fit is fit. He's been out 3 months.
Well,
You know.
well, I mean, I personally, I would start him and then sub him off. I would not be bringing him on as a sub. I would give him the start, maybe try to get 55, 60 minutes under the belt, as you said, to shake off the rust and then make the substitution. But I wouldn't necessarily be bringing him off the bench. But that's just me. Arteta may have something else up his sleeve. I would try to win this game as soon as possible, and then if the game progress, then you would sub Saka off as opposed to bringing him on with the possibility of you looking to use him to unlock what could be a stubborn Fulham defense. I just think it's probably wiser to start him from the jump and then sub him off later in the game. But this should definitely be an interesting game in all honesty. And as you mentioned, the concern for me is this Arsenal team rusty? Can they break down this Fulham team? What would Fulham have learned from that defeat versus Crystal Palace? So to me, they should be fresher, more seasoned at this point in the season, having gotten a competitive game over the weekend versus a rampant Crystal Palace team. This would have woken up this Fulham team, and Arsenal may very well be on the unfortunate end of this Fulham attack. So for me, Christoph, you say 2-0, I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw. I feel with the game that Fulham played earlier over the weekend in the FA Cup, that would have given them the opportunity to shake off the rust, and they should come rearing to go versus this Arsenal team in this big London derby. So for me, I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw in this one. But stranger things have happened. We'll definitely have to lock in to see what transpire on Tuesday, this game coming up midweek. Then, of course, we have another big derby, Christoph. This time at Anfield, the Merseyside derby, Liverpool versus Everton. Talk to us about that game. How do you see that one playing out?
Again, as we've said a number of times, derby games, form potentially doesn't matter because teams generally tend to step up for these games regardless of how they've been playing all season. Fulham hasn't had the best of seasons,
Well,
really.
Everton.
sorry, Everton, and you could argue that Liverpool is having their best season in a couple of years. So hard to tell. It is at Anfield, right? Yeah,
Right?
at Anfield. So I give the edge to Liverpool. Yeah, we know they'll probably be playing to the cup in the second half, so I think Liverpool will win 3-1. I don't think
3-1. Wow.
Fulham have enough in them.
Everton.
They've sorry, Everton. They've drawn their last 4 of 5 points dropping here and there. They're not necessarily the best. I mean,
Well,
they
what I
even
would
drew
say
with.
though, Christoph, is that they have been on a renaissance since the reintroduction of David Moyes. I mean, if you look at when David Moyes took over this team and compare it to other teams in the league, they are right up there in probably the top four in
I
terms
mean,
of production.
earlier this season before Moyes, I think they were in that hovering around in and around that relegation zone.
Right?
To be fair, he has gotten there and he's gotten some points. But if you look at it, there's not a whole lot of points difference between that relegation zone and where Everton are right now because West Ham is also on what 34 points also and they're in 16. So that is technically hovering around that zone.
Right, right.
Granted, we can look at the bottom four and say, Wolves, Ipswich, Leicester, and we know that we know Everton is safe, West Ham is safe. So I guess you could say that Everton probably can play this game without any worries, except for the pride of Merseyside, or that Merseyside derby pride is on the line for them. But they have a freedom to play in this game. But I think Liverpool have the firepower, are better, and Liverpool want to keep their foot on the gas, having know that they want to avoid another embarrassing collapse like last season.
Ah, definitely, definitely. This is almost, you could say, a must-win game for Liverpool. I mean, winning this game is pretty much taking a gigantic step towards the title, but losing it, then that will definitely be rather questionable, having gone down to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. So and having been bounced out of the Champions League as well. I mean, that's two massive competition where you could have possibly win trophies that you have been bounced out of in literally the same week, Christoph. Out on Wednesday in the Champions League, and then come Sunday for the Carabao final, defeated by Newcastle. And now you have a big derby coming up. So to me, this is almost like a must-win game for Liverpool. I mean, this is probably the point in the season where Liverpool's confidence would have been at its lowest. And it was probably a good thing for the international break, in all honesty, to give the players an opportunity to see a different environment, be in a different camp, be refreshed, be revitalized, and then return to
I
Anfield. So
mean,
to me, the confidence in the Liverpool camp should be rather low.
I mean, Liverpool is probably looking at it and saying, well, if we win the next 5 games, title won, because Liverpool is
Right,
what 15 points. 15 points needed to fully secure the title.
right,
If
right.
Arsenal drop
Regardless of
points or
other
lose,
results around them.
regardless of other results, if they win their next 5 games in a row, they win the league. Right?
Okay, I see.
Outside, yeah, that's what they need 15 points to secure it. That is lowered if Arsenal drops points. So that becomes lower. So
Right, right, right.
Liverpool just
But
need 15.
what
So
about you're so so you're saying you're ruling out Forest then out of the equation. Forest is
far
out of the equation
Forest is 4 points off
off
of
of
Arsenal. Currently,
Arsenal.
I have to do it based off of Arsenal. If I
Right,
be Arsenal is 58, so 15 points and Liverpool need 15 points and then Arsenal cannot catch them.
right.
Forest would need what 19 points.
Mm.
If Forest, but it's not that Forest is out of the race. It's that Forest is I can't
Well,
work. I can't do the math
I
based
think
on Forest.
mathematically, probably not yet, but in reality, yeah, Forest
It in
winning the title
reality,
for Forest is a stretch too far. Yeah, Forest is definitely out. I wouldn't give them a chance in this. Arsenal still have a glimmer of hope, but it all in the hands of Liverpool, in all honesty. But again, stranger things have happened. As I said, the Liverpool camp right now should be very low on confidence. If Everton can get a massive upset in this derby, Christoph, it could potentially set the cat amongst the pigeon. Momentum is a hell of a thing in football. So this Liverpool team has to be very careful, very wary of this Everton team and the sort of result and signal it will send. As I said, to me, this is probably the lowest Liverpool has been all season. The coach hasn't come under this amount of pressure since he took up the reins at Liverpool. So this is probably the most pressure that Slot is feeling at this point in time. And if results go against this Liverpool team, that would now be 3 defeats on the bounce, and the wheels could come falling off. So what says you about this game? What's your predicted scoreline?
Um, Using slots, because to me it seems like Slot has a preferred lineup now.
Right?
He's lost faith in a couple of players, like
Oh,
Endo.
namely,
Uh, Endo, for instance, has not been
well, I
seen a
mean,
lot of
Endo has
minutes.
never really been in and around the starting 11.
No, earlier this season, what I mean is earlier this season there was a lot more rotation than there is
Mm.
now,
Right,
right?
right.
And it was, all those games that you had, you should have been rotating at that point. So you could argue that some of the starting players or regular starters might be slightly jaded, but it's been a long break. I don't know how much football these players have played over the international break, so I can't
Mhm.
say. But I maintain that I think Liverpool win this game 3-1. I don't think
3-1.
Everton have enough in them. I don't think they're going to go to Anfield and leave with the points or even with 1 point. Regardless of how good or how much David Moyes have turned them around, I think Liverpool would want to lock in at this point. You have one competition, you need 15 points to win.
For me, Christoph, for me, I am not feeling this Liverpool team at this point in time. And I think they are currently there for the taking, in all honesty. And I think if Everton go on to get the first goal in this game, which to me, the Liverpool defense have become very suspect. It has almost become the Liverpool of last season, where the defense is concerned, where they concede the first goal and then try to fight back and try to get the win. But to me, if Everton can pinch the first goal in this game, I don't see Liverpool getting back a win, possibly a draw, but I don't see them winning this game. So for me, I'm gonna back Everton, Christoph. I feel this Everton team in a derby game with Liverpool low on confidence, with the fans possibly turning on the team slightly, with the pressure at the top of the league, coming off an international break, players possibly rusty, players possibly jaded and tired, as you mentioned. I just feel they are ripe for the picking, and I think Everton will go to Anfield and return with a point. So for me, I'm gonna call this one 1-1. I think it will be a repeat of the previous derby where Everton, the debt scored and equalized, and it felt like a win. I think they will hold on at Anfield for a draw in this game as well. Pickford should be fairly active, but I think defensively they should be able to hold this Liverpool team and find a draw. But stranger things have definitely happened, and it wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool won. But I just think based on the way they've been playing and all the factors surrounding this team currently, I feel they are right for the picking. So for me, I'm gonna go with the upset in this one and call this game 1-1. But a number of other games are on, Christoph. We're just gonna quick fire picks in terms of some of the other games which are on for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So some other games coming up on Tuesday, we have Wolves versus West Ham. What says you in this? You could say a fight down there in the basement. Wolves at home versus West Ham.
Um, I I I think this game in my opinion, is potentially a draw game. Of course, I would give the edge to West Ham, but I think it's potentially a draw game. Edge to West
This
Ham, but I think it's a draw, one all draw.
yeah, that would have been the safe call, but I'm gonna back Wolves for a win. I'm gonna
You
back
back
Wolves for a
Wolves
win.
for a win.
Wolves
Okay.
definitely need a win, and I feel with the possible return of Cunha, the Brazilian, getting a goal on international duty versus Argentina. I feel eh, Wolves are more desperate for a win than West Ham. So for me, I'm gonna back Wolves for a win. I don't want to see this Wolves team get relegated. Uh, I think they have enough to stay in the league, and I think desperation at home will kick into full gear, and they should be able to claw, I would say, a 2-1 win over this West Ham team. So I'm gonna back them for a 2-1 win.
Okay.
2-1 win. Then we also have Forest versus Manchester United, Christoph. This is another, I would
Nottingham Forest.
say,
Nottingham
a very
Forest.
good game for the neutrals.
Very good
Forest
game
at
for the
home versus
neutrals.
Manchester United.
Nottingham Forest though.
You're saying Nottingham Forest for the win?
Nottingham Forest. Clean win.
Clean win.
Nottingham Forest
Wow.
probably like a 2-3 nil.
Wow. I mean, Amarin would have had this team to work with over the international break, Christoph. I mean,
Irrelevant. Irrelevant.
wow.
Nottingham Forest
Wow.
are that good.
You sound very confident in this call, probably the most confident I've ever heard you on the podcast.
Nottingham Forest. They are they
Nottingham
are
Forest,
they
and
are
you're
so
saying
good.
2 goals to nil.
2 goals to nil.
2 goals to nil. Wow, it's very difficult to bet against that call, in all honesty. I mean, Forest have been playing good football all season, and they were indeed in action over the international over the FA Cup uh games as well. I believe they got a victory on penalties, if memory serves me correctly. Who did they play though, Christoph? Brighton. Brighton, they played Brighton. I think that game ended 0-0, but Forest took that one on penalties. So confidence should be high in the camp, as it has been all season for Forest. And when Manchester United comes to town, their game should definitely be lifted. I'm looking at Ilanga, Christoph, the former Manchester United player, as a player that could hurt this United team and possibly hurt them on multiple occasions. So it's hard for me to bet against your call. I'm gonna back Forest as well, but rather than back them 2-0, I'm gonna back them 2 goals to 1. Bruno Fernandes is still amongst the United rank, and if anyone can get a goal, then it's definitely him, whether he gets one or creates one. But he has been the man over there at United. So while I think Forest will get the win, I do believe United may very well trouble the back of the net. So for me, I'm gonna go 2-1 to Forest. Then
Okay.
we also have on Wednesday Bournemouth versus Ipswich. Bournemouth at home versus Ipswich.
Bournemouth.
Relegation battlers.
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, what says you in terms of the scoreline?
2-0, I think.
2-0 to
2
Bournemouth.
3-0 to Bournemouth.
Yeah,
It
definitely. Bournemouth has been one of the
Ipswich
surprise teams all season as well.
and Ipswich has barely done anything last season. I think they've racked up 3 wins, to be fair, but it's been mostly losses.
For sure,
The
for sure, for
majority.
sure. To me, they have all but confirmed their status back in the championship, and they should be looking to put their books in order for life down there in the championship, in all honesty. So I would second that call that I'm looking at a Bournemouth win also. I think Bournemouth will keep a clean sheet against this team as well. So I'm looking at 3-0 Bournemouth, 3-0 in favor of Bournemouth. Then we have Brighton versus Aston Villa. Brighton at home versus Aston Villa.
Okay, so that's a bit of a tougher call. Brighton is, I think 2 points clear of Villa. Granted, fourth to 10th, it's basically like 1 to 2 points separating each positions. There, potentially, you could, if everything were to go well for, say, a Bournemouth, Bournemouth could end up in fourth.
right? And I
Potentially.
believe
So
it's a top five in the English league this time around, Christoph, that qualifies for the Champions League as well. I think England will get that extra Champions League spot. So the top five teams could be playing Champions League football come next season. So, I mean, that should definitely be an objective for Bournemouth come the end of the season. But also, it should be an objective for Aston Villa and also Brighton as well. So, all these
well,
teams are really battling it out.
it's Chelsea, Man City, everybody from fourth to tenth could potentially win that spot, those Champions League spot. Fulham, Newcastle, everybody there. So those teams and teams in that area, that zone, I think those matches are potentially more difficult. Um, it might not be in the minds of some of these teams, to be honest, but it should be. It should be because
It is. It
you're
definitely
getting
is.
champion
That's big money. I mean,
you're getting
managers
Champions
and
League money.
owners would be in the ears with this opportunity right in front of you. Why wouldn't you go for it? You have to go for it. That there's no question. You have to battle it down to the wire for the Champions League spot. And this game, Aston Villa versus Brighton, is one of those games, Christoph. This is you could almost say it's a Champions League six-pointer in all honesty. Whoever wins this match could potentially go on to finish in those Champions League positions. So this is a must-win game for either team. How are you calling it though, Christoph? That's what we do on this podcast. We make the tough calls.
I think I think Aston Villa have just a little more firepower. I'm going to go Aston Villa 2-1.
Aston Villa 2-1. I'm going to sit on the fence for this one, Christoph. I'm going to go 2-2. Brighton 2, Aston Villa 2. I think these two teams are pretty much inseparable at this point in time. Brighton would have been coming off a loss versus Forest in the FA Cup, and Aston Villa got an easier draw versus Preston, where they run away big winners, and they are deep into the FA Cup as well. But this is in the EPL, and I just think both teams will rise to the occasion and pretty much cancel each other out. So I'm gonna go 2-2 in this one, but definitely this is a big game, I would say, for the neutrals. Next game, Man City versus Leicester City. What says you? Straightforward win for Man City?
Straight for Man City. Leicester City couldn't beat a egg.
But I'm hearing that the big man over there at Man City is out for the remainder of the season, Christoph. Haaland out with a ankle injury, I believe.
I, honestly, I don't think Haaland is making a huge difference to this Man
I
City
mean,
team.
you're looking
Granted,
at
the goals are
20
going
goal a season,
the
man
goal
missing from the
the,
attack
the
now.
the goals are going to go down now. I mean, but
But what about the
we've
signings? The
seen them struggle.
Egyptian prince. If Salah is the Egyptian king, then Marmoush must be the Egyptian prince, Christoph. He has taken the EPL by storm, and he seemed to be able to pick up the slack that Haaland have left over there at City. Can he step in with Haaland now going missing for the rest of the season?
Definitely. I think Marmoush, he gets that centre forward role, and it's a if because things are very weird with Pep from time to time. If he gets a centre forward role, I think we can expect to see goals from him for the remainder of the season. I, however, don't think he will steal Haaland's spot, so to speak. So
Definitely, for sure. But he could play that second striker role, or with Haaland missing, he could play the out and out nine. For this game, though, I'm calling this one 3 goals to nil, Christoph.
I think
Three
that's fair. I think
Man
3-0
City
is
to win,
a
3
fair
nil.
score. I think that's a fair score.
Then we have Newcastle versus Brentford. What says you? What's your quick fire scoreline?
Newcastle
Newcastle at
2-1.
home versus Brentford.
Newcastle
2-1 to
2-1.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yes, I would want to lean towards a Newcastle win as well, especially coming off a big win over there in the Carabao Cup. I saw 60,000 patrons out celebrating that victory, Christoph, but could the players be hungover from all
Hangover.
that celebration?
There is that. There is that. No, potentially.
I
Potentially.
mean, Brentford is
They,
no
they've,
pushover in all
I
honesty,
mean,
and this game should have goals.
they've had a long break. They potentially they could have gotten it out of their system already, but they
I
could
mean,
still
the
be
stadium
hungover.
should be bouncing, and I think that Newcastle energy should have enough to take them over the line. So I'm with you on this. I think Newcastle will win. Brentford should potentially get on the scoreline. I think this is probably going to be one of the more exciting games of the calendar. So I'm gonna go Newcastle to win 3-2. I think this is a goal. This should be a goal fest. So, but Newcastle to eventually run out winners.
I think every game involving those teams from fourth to 11th are going to be potentially exciting matches for the remainder of the season.
Definitely some good football coming up then. Then we have Southampton versus Crystal Palace. Southampton versus Crystal Palace. What
Crystal
says you?
Palace again. Southampton struggling
Yeah,
all
definitely,
season.
definitely. All but relegated, in all honesty. All but
Uh,
relegated. At this point in time, they're just playing for pride. Uh, Crystal Palace would have been on a high after their victory over Fulham and maybe be looking to back that victory up by
uh,
getting another win under their
they've
belt
been
at home. So,
Crystal Palace has been in relatively decent form over the last, 5 or so games. They
right,
even beat Aston Villa 4-1. So, um, I think they've probably found their rhythm for the remainder of the season potentially.
potentially.
So, I think this is probably an easy win for them.
Mm. And then the final game on the agenda, Christoph, is another London derby. This time around, it is Chelsea versus Tottenham. What says you? What's your quick fire scoreline in this one?
Ah, so this is a difficult game to call because we've kind of seen where Chelsea has peaked. We've seen the best of Chelsea. We know that if there's no Cole Palmer, there really is nothing going for them. But the question there is, will Ange, if Cole Palmer is fit and playing, I don't know. Will Ange use this information and follow the template that other teams have outlined, right? Or will he stick to, let's just play this way and win? That is the big problem
But
for
that being
Tottenham at the
said, though,
moment.
Christoph, what's your call? What's your predicted score?
I
We
think this
don't
is
have
a
we don't have all night to beat around the bushes.
I think this is a draw game. 0-0, 1-0, 1-1 or 0-0. I think this is a draw game.
Draw game. I'm gonna back Chelsea for the win. The coach would have had the players, and I think Cole Palmer was spotted in training, so he should at least get some minutes. May not play the full 90, but I think Chelsea definitely is due a win, and they may very well get it in this London derby. But time has run out on us, Christoph. Any quick final thoughts before we call it a day?
Some interesting mid-table matches going forward, I think. They should be exciting for the neutrals. Uh, as I complain about every week, I want to see a better standard of refereeing and I want to see fair refereeing going forward. So,
Well, there you have it, viewers and subscribers. Thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Christoph, thanks again for coming on board and sharing your thoughts and your opinions. Viewers and subscribers, hit that subscription bell. Leave your predicted scoreline in the comment section. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.